Well, there's some good news for you, on a Sunday morning. It might appear that Jesus is not quite in a positive, easygoing mood today. He seems to be a little upset and calls about fire. But you and I, as we journey through our life, we have the opportunity to encounter all kinds of people. Our lives intersect with others, and we have the opportunity to get to know some people in great length and detail, and most of the people in our lives, it's just folks that kind of pass by. We kind of rub elbows for maybe a second or two, and, well, before we know it, they're gone, and so are we. But as you've walked through your journey of life, I'm just curious, have you ever met Ebed-Melech? Anybody? Do you know him, Ebed? Ebed-Melech, you know who I'm talking about. The gentleman in today's first reading from the prophet Jeremiah. Jeremiah. He's in quite a predicament, isn't he? Why, Jeremiah today is found stuck in the mud. Have you been there? I bet you have. Now, there's a difference between being stuck in the mud and being a stick in the mud. Both, I bet, have happened to all of us. But let's get back to Jeremiah. He finds himself stuck in the mud. Why? Because he chose to be a stick in the mud. He chose to be prophetic. He chose to be a messenger who lived the message. And people didn't like what he was saying. So the best way to get rid of the message is to get rid of the messenger. So he's stuck in the mud. You and I have been there too. We've been right where Jeremiah finds himself today. Stuck in the mud happens more perhaps in our lives because of inertia rather than necessarily a crisis that happens. You and I go about living our routine daily lives, and before we know it, why all of a sudden we find ourselves in a state of mind and heart where it's like, gosh, work doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And prayer, when I remember to do it, why it seems empty. And then there's those relationships of mine. There's those relationships with my spouse and children and that, and it seems dull. And top it all off, church is dull as well. We find ourselves like Jeremiah, stuck in the mud. So how does Jeremiah get out of his predicament? He meets Ebed-Melech. Ebed-Melech, a court official from the palace, goes to the king and pleads Jeremiah's cause, and then comes back. And if we would have continued the reading from the prophet Jeremiah today, we would have found out that Ebed did something absolutely remarkable. He went to the palace linen closet, and he got out some old tattered rags. And he brought the rags back to the cistern where Jeremiah was stuck in the mud. And what did Ebed do? Well, he tied all those rags together, and he told Jeremiah down at the cistern, we're going to lift you up with a rope, but so that you don't get rope burns, put this rag between your arm and the rope itself. Ebed was a wise man. More importantly, he was kind. And he was loving, and he was caring. He was concerned about the messenger. He was concerned about the message, and so he pleaded Jeremiah's cause. Now let me get back to that question previously. Have you ever met Ebed-Melech in your life? I sure as hope you have. You know what I'm talking about. Those people in your life who are concerned about you enough that they're willing to go get tattered rags and tie them together. They're willing to be able to go to the linen closet and find what's there to be able to help you and I to lift us up out of the muck, out of the mud that you and I find ourselves so oftentimes stuck in life. Those are the people, my friends, who are the Ebed-Melechs in our life, who come to us each and every day. And not only do they come to us, but hopefully pray tell, you and I are those for others as well. Hopefully you and I have that as our middle name, Ebed-Melech. Hopefully you and I are attentive to the needs of the people around us, extending kindness and generosity, because when we do that, why then we heed the words of Paul in today's second reading, persevere in running the race. And the way in which we do that is quite simply, Paul tells us, keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. Keep your eyes fixed on the Lord. Because if we do, then we're always hearing the message, a message of love and not exclusion, a message of forgiveness and not grudges, a message of compassion and not an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. If we keep our eyes fixed on the Lord, we continue to hear the message of love, of justice, of forgiveness, of grace. And then you and I are called, like Jeremiah, to become a messenger who becomes the message, who goes out to be Ebed-Melech for others as they are for us. And when we do that, my friends, well then this fire that Jesus speaks of in today's gospel, why, it is ignited in our hearts, in our lives, in our actions. Have you met Ebed-Melech? I hope we have.